The untold story of the Biden campaign and Biden administration is that they are super duper duper radical. And if Joe Biden were just old, even if he were senile, if things were going amazing in the country and people felt really secure and solid, the American people might be inclined to give him some benefit of the doubt. But the problem is he's a bad president. There's a new poll out from the Daily Wire, just to take an example of kind of social politics that the Biden administration has engaged in. Daily Wire did a poll. The poll is of a Biden administration set of regulations that require parents to pass an LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign litmus test to adopt foster kids. The Biden Department of Health and Human Services has enacted a policy starting April 30th, which requires child welfare agencies to place foster kids only with families who have committed to, quote, establishing an environment that supports the child's LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign status or identity. Under the new rules, foster kids must be treated with identified pronouns and chosen name. And foster parents have to allow kids to dress in a way that, quote, reflects their self-identified gender identity and expression. I mean, that's how extreme this administration is. According to the poll that we took, nearly twice as many voters reject banning religious families who oppose trans ideology from taking in foster kids as accept it. Only 29% say faith-based families refusing to affirm a child's gender dysphoria should be banned from adopting. Again, 54% say, no, of course, why would you possibly ban foster parents who just don't believe in trans delusions? 29% are like, yes, you absolutely should, and 17% not sure. This is relevant, by the way, because July 4th, this weekend, Sound of Hope is coming out. That is a movie that Daily Wire has worked on distributing with Angel Studios. It's an amazing film. You should go check it out. It's all about the failures of the foster system, how difficult it is to get kids out of the foster system, how to deal with kids who are damaged from the foster system. Sound of Hope, it's available in theaters this weekend, so make sure that you go check that out. But again, this just underscores how radical this administration is. It is a very, very radical administration. And herein lies the real untold story of the Biden administration. They suck on policy. They are awful. We're all focusing in on the senility because, hey, it's the sexy story of the day. And it's fascinating, and nothing like this has ever happened in modern American politics. But the real story of the Joe Biden presidency is that this administration is a bleep show. And all the rest is just senile icing on the crap cake. Joining us online is Josh Weigel. He's the award-winning filmmaker and director and writer behind the upcoming Angel Studios film, The Sound of Hope, the story of Possum, Trot. He's an adoptive parent himself, and he was inspired to embark on what became an 8-year-long period of writing and directing Sound of Hope, culminating in Josh's feature debut as a director. The movie is just terrific. Obviously, Daily Wire is working with Angel Studios to put this in theaters, so make sure you go see it this weekend. Josh, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me be here, Ben. It's awesome. Thank you.
So let's talk about what drew you to this story in the first place. How'd you get started on this thing?
Well, my wife and I adopted a couple of our kids years ago. It's always something that we wanted to do. And we, at the time, we knew that there was this story about this community somewhere that had adopted all of these children. That was kind of in the back of our minds. But we were just doing this ourselves. My wife was working in Los Angeles, working in the child welfare space, trying to encourage churches to get more involved. And long story short, she came across Bishop Martin, brought him out to be a speaker at an event, and we just totally hit it off. And their story was so powerful, and it was just the perfect time. Kind of took over our hearts and minds, and we just felt like it was something really critical right now with the foster crisis in America, and creatively just felt like something that we could do something with. So we went all in on it.
So let's talk about what it was like to shoot this thing. So this community is really small. It's not a rich community by any stretch of the imagination. We talked with the bishop last week about exactly what the community is like and how this impoverished community took in all these foster kids. So what was your interaction with the actual community, and then how did you translate that to the screen?
Yeah, I mean, that's what really drew us in. This is for people who don't know, 22 average families in East Texas adopted 77 kids. So it's this incredible feat, and they were not specially trained. I loved that this was just hardworking, everyday people who saw this problem and just dove in. So we did the typical, research, went out there, talked to as many people as we could. And after a few years of development, we just felt like we hadn't quite reached the deep places of this story, and that we needed to do something more. So we ended up moving our family out to East Texas got really close to this community and dove in deeper and made a huge difference. So we got to know them really well, were embraced differently, like just brought into the community, spent tons of time with them, met a lot more of the kids. And it just gave us a perspective, I think, that created a lot more authenticity, which is crucial. If you think for this one, especially, you know, dealing with kids in that kind of situation, what they go through and the people who are caring for them. I mean, I wanted it to be as authentic as possible and to really do it justice and honor what everyone had gone through, really.
So when you were making Sound of Hope's story of Possum Trot, obviously you've been focused in on the foster crisis. When you look at the foster crisis, what do you think are sort of the biggest issues that Americans need to know about and that you tried to get across in the film?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is just that it's there. I mean, I think we all know that the foster system is there, and we're so used to just giving over that kind of work to the government and other people that we don't personalize it. And what's so shocking is that children are suffering every day in this system, floating around, being sent house to house, and depending on where you are in this nation as a child, it can be worse for you. So first, I want people to know it's there. There's 400,000 kids in the system and 100,000 that need homes. Sounds like a big number, but when you think of this nation and all that we have, all the resources we have, churches alone, you know, this is a story that centers around a church community. Churches alone, there's 400,000 in America. So it wouldn't take much if we all just, you know, turned our attention to these kids and the situation and addressed it and said, look, I got to get involved. Whether that's fostering or adopting or not, there's other ways to get involved. Everybody can do something. But first, people need to know there's a crisis. It's also being, you know, there's all kinds of other issues that deeply disturb us, like child trafficking. You know, the Sound of Freedom touched on that last year, and homelessness and prison populations. There's major problems we all see, break our hearts, and if people understand that the foster system is basically the feeder for these things. I mean, up to 90% of children in America who are trafficked have spent time in the foster system. So shocking realities and numbers, but not so much that we can't do something about this.
So the movie Sound of Hope story, Possum Trot, again, it's fantastic. I've seen it. It really is uplifting and inspiring. And it centers on faith, community, and perseverance. How do you think faith plays into all of this? How does it provide the basis for the kind of incredible thing that Possum Trot did here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Christianity, that's my faith, and that's what I know best. And I know for those who claim to follow Jesus, we got a problem right now. I mean, if we believe what he says, then these are the kinds of things we've got to do. And it really was a big motivator for this community. I mean, there's a scripture in James that says that we must visit the orphans and widows in their trouble, not just keep ourselves undefiled from the world, but there's a specific call to action to care for vulnerable people. Children are the most vulnerable. So it's, you know, in my view, in my experience, this is, you know, God sees these children. He hears them. The cries of these kids are in his ears. His people, in the view of Christians, and I know others, we're here to represent him. We're here to be the hands and feet, the light, the salt. And so, you know, we're meant to lay down our lives for him if we claim to follow him. And I'm urging others who feel the same way to step into this. I mean, it is shameful that this is happening all around us, and we make the claims that we do. So I don't mean to be heavy-handed. I mean, I love the church, and I just think it's something that we need to reprioritize and pay attention to.
That is Josh Weigel. Go check out the movie, The Sound of Hope, story of Possum Trot. It is out this weekend, starting July 4th. Make sure that you go check it out. It really is excellent and worthwhile. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.